Okay, we're gonna go live. Good morning. Today is Thursday, September 25th. The time is 9:05 a.m. I am calling this meeting to order. This is the meeting of the Cuyahoga County Women's Health Commission. I would ask the clerk to please take roll call at this time.
Dr. Lauren Bean.
Here.
Heather Brissett. Here. County Councilwoman Yvonne Conwell. Emily Campbell. Dr. Melanie Golembiewski.
Here.
Councilwoman Tennille Kaus.
Here.
Jasmine Long. David Merriman.
Here.
LaShawn Carson on behalf of Metro Health.
Here.
Councilwoman Nikisha Nickerson. Sabrina Roberts on behalf of the executive.
Here.
Councilwoman Jasmine Santana. Mayor Kim Thomas. Thank you.
And we believe we have a quorum, clerk. Correct. Thank you. This morning, before we get started, and I'm really excited about the agenda today, I do want to take a minute for us to reflect. It is the National Day of Remembrance for Homicide Victims. Today, I want us to specifically reflect on the victims of Cuyahoga County. Our medical examiner's office reports that we've had 128 victims of homicide so far in 2025, and obviously there's still several months to go. We know that homicide affects the family unit as a whole, especially women who might end up taking on the family challenges of helping individuals through grief, shepherding arrangements, et cetera. And so this is something near and dear to our hearts. And I just want to take a moment of silence to remember the victims in Cuyahoga County who have been afflicted by homicide, families and victims. Thank you. Thank you for that moment of silence. The next item on our agenda is the approval of prior meeting minutes. Those meetings were circulated to the commission prior to this morning's meeting. I now invite members to express their opinions or make motions related to the topic.
I make a motion that we accept the last meeting minutes.
Thank you. We had a motion made by Ms. Brissett, and we had a second by Ms. Long. We will now vote on the motion to approve the minutes. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, say nay. Let the record show that the motion has passed and the minutes are approved. Clerk, is there anyone that submitted public comment for the meeting today?
None was received.
Thank you. The meeting is now open for new business. In order for this body or its committees to meet virtually, our members need to vote to approve a virtual meeting policy. A policy was drafted with the help of the county's law department and circulated to members prior to this meeting. I now invite members to express their opinions or make motions related to this topic. So I just, as a point of clarification, this would allow us to meet virtually. It does not require us to meet virtually. And so I do anticipate and would welcome still some in-person meetings, but some of the committee work or even, when during busy season, we would then have the option for virtual meetings as well, just as a point of clarification on that.
Yeah, I just want to acknowledge, I think there are some amazing leaders around the table. Folks are busy. They're pulled in a lot of different directions. I just appreciate folks this group of leaders that commits to being at these meetings, and feel like this virtual option will allow people to engage and maintain their voice on this commission and also be able to manage their schedules better. So I appreciate this coming forward and think it's a great idea.
And I would also add, as a person who's dealing with a temporary disability, flexibility is critically important, especially as we are a health commission, and understanding people may have different kind of challenges with respect to mobility and accessibility.
As it relates to flexibility on the part of Dr. Connie Moreland, she would like to vote for in-person either way. Thank you.
Thank you. Very good points made by our colleagues, and as technology continues to advance, I think we appreciate this virtual option. Any other comments as they relate to the virtual meeting policy?
I do want to add, I think, one benefit as well, because we're moving into committee meetings where we'll be meeting more frequently and doing a lot more work. Having that ability to meet virtually, particularly for those committee meetings, I think will be helpful. We have a lot of work ahead of us.
A lot of exciting work ahead of us. Perfect. Thank you.
Do I need to make a motion?
Yes, do we have a motion? Ms.
I make a
Wong?
motion that we approve the virtual policy that's drafted for us to have virtual meetings.
Perfect.
I second it.
Thank you. It has been moved and it has been seconded. Any further discussion? We will now vote on the motion. All in favor, say aye. All opposed, say nay. Let the record show that the motion has passed. Thank you. Thank you all. We are now on to our next business item. Last week, our two committees, the Mental Health Committee and the Physical Health Committee, met to discuss initiatives that they would like to undertake before the end of this year and into 2026. I now invite representatives from each of the committees to share their reports of the initiatives that were discussed with the full commission today. We'll begin with County Councilwoman Conwell to speak about the Mental Health Committee. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning to all my commission members. I'm happy to share an update on the initiatives that we each discussed in the Mental Health Committee meeting last week, or was it this week? Feels like it was this week. Wasn't it Monday? No, it was last week? Oh my goodness, too much going on. I'm at the end of the week. So we're excited about these initiatives and feel that they really reflect our ongoing commitment to community healing, awareness, and empowerment for our women in our community, which is Cuyahoga County. We talked about several things. So number one being, we're getting around the time period where Domestic Violence Awareness Month in October. And there was a strong support for renewed advocacy and programming around that, that expounds past Cuyahoga County, that affects not, men, women, a lot of families are impacted by domestic violence. So it's very good to bring awareness to that. And for 2025, we are aiming to collaborate with Maisha Watkins in the Office of Violence Prevention. A community-centered co-ed event is being envisioned, focused around listening, educating, and empowering. This would include a shared meal, space for storytelling, and highlighting resources. So look for that to come. And looking ahead to 2026, we would like to bring back the weekly domestic violence awareness series that I used to host. During each week, we focus on a different theme and work with different partners throughout the community to educate and raise awareness. And that's a lot. And that's under domestic violence. Then we also talked about podcast. One particularly exciting idea that we could bring to fruition in 2026 is the creation of a podcast centered on open, healing conversations on women, health, and lived experiences. So I look very excited about that. Number 3, mental health event series. We discussed replicating the successful event model used by Councilwoman Turner, my colleague, during her spring fibroid event, but this time with a specific focus on some mental health topics that are relevant for the women in our community. B, a few topics that also came up include grief, belonging, social isolation, and trauma-informed care for healthcare providers, lawyers, educators, beauticians, and faith-based leaders. C, we have also have a strong interest in empowering how we can weave mental health support into existing physical health events, perhaps including on-site emotional support at all forums. And I personally feel that's a good initiative to try to also bring awareness how our healthcare insurance companies look at that as a separate entity, and we really need to bring the focus that, that's a full body, and to really put funding behind the mental health. Changes to SNAP and Medicaid. This is number 4. Fourth topic, we're looking into co-sponsoring a forum on the impacts of the recent SNAP and Medicaid policy changes on women in our community. We, the county exec, did have one recently, but, everybody doesn't look at the websites or emails or, so the more that we can educate and get this information out, it's very, very vital and important that everyone is aware of the changes, whether you're a recipient or a provider. The goal is to create a space that not only informs us, but also provides emotional support and connection for those who will be most affected. And these initiatives are all in the planning phases, of course, still, and our Mental Health Committee is excited about each of the opportunities to make a measured difference in the lives of all the women in Cuyahoga County. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Councilwoman Conwell. I am on the Mental Health Committee, and we had such a rich discussion at our committee meeting. I would now like to open the floor for other committee members to add and fill in details if they would like. Also opening the floor to our team members who are on the physical health side that would like to have input or have questions or suggestions as well. Just to highlight what Councilwoman Conwell discussed, her 3 points, Domestic Violence Month coming up. The podcast, which we got really excited about, and Councilwoman Conwell brought that to the table, so we're super excited to launch that initiative. And then, of course, the event model that Councilwoman Turner launched with her fibroid series, but doing that around mental health and adding support to the physical health committee around mental health issues, as we know those go hand in hand. So opening up the floor for discussions, questions, and dialogue at this time. Thank you.
That probably wasn't allowed, but I wanted to clap. It sounds so exciting, all of those things. The domestic violence podcast, I'm just really intrigued by, and that's like a weekly event or a weekly thing. Two separate things. Okay.
We have not decided how frequent the
I see.
podcast will
Okay.
be.
Got it.
The series that I used to have, and COVID kind of derailed it, was it's so much information and so many resources and things around domestic violence. We broke it up into a 1 day a week series. So, for example, 911, what happens when someone calls and reports that there's domestic violence, whether it's in the house or the neighbor. And so we actually had law enforcement come out. Then you have the victims standpoint. So you want to, of course, have a week for a victim to come and present. There are so many men and women around this county. Then a third week is with, once it leaves and the police drop people off to wherever they head, to the jail or wherever they have to sit. Then a judge, then you're being seen. So you bring in the domestic relations court, judges to, and so on and so on. So
Just to follow up as it relates to the podcast, I was very excited about the podcast opportunity because this is an opportunity for us to educate and to reach the larger population of Cuyahoga County. And regardless of where you are or when you listen to it, whether you listen to it live or at a later time, that information is there recorded for you to go back and listen to it, as well as you can dial in or, text in and ask questions, and someone should be able to get back to an individual.
Yeah, and on the podcast, because we all were super excited for that idea to come to the table. It was in the vein of meeting people where they are. We all talk about our busy schedules, and I may not be able to come to an in-person event at 5 on Thursday nights because it's basketball practice, or just might be caring for an elder, so many different things. And so a podcast, I could listen to that on the way to work in the morning, or Saturday while cleaning my house, or different things. And so I'm just thinking about the wide variety of family situations and life situations that we have in Cuyahoga County, and trying to be inclusive to our population, that they're able to receive information, as well. And so I'm very, very excited about that.
I also think it's an awesome idea, and I wanted to suggest too that it would be neat if we could find ways to encourage the various types of medical education establishments in the area to be aware of our podcast or your podcast, and encourage their students, our podcast, our podcast, thank you, our podcast, and spread the word among like medical students and nursing students and medical residents, because I think just looking back, in my training, I would have really benefited from, this exposure early on. And I would like to help do that in any way I can. So.
I am super excited about a podcast because it just arms you with information, and knowledge is power. And so when you're in circles or group, you can have intelligent conversations and then pass that information on to those who might not have the ability to be a part of a podcast. So that's an excellent opportunity for the community. Thank you.
And I think right now is really important that we present evidence-based, community-forward, equitable, kind, thoughtful information. And so, yeah, full steam ahead, ladies. This sounds really awesome. Yeah.
Want to also just share on the podcast, as well as the broader idea of doing the SNAP Medicaid forum, acknowledging maybe a little bit of departmental self-interest in this. This is a commitment that we've made. We're looking at forums for the next year and are very committed to being transparent. First, I want to acknowledge Councilwoman Conwell was part of the leadership of that forum, was a speaker, and I think did a great job. And so I appreciate her commitment on that very sensitive and complicated, confusing issue. A question, and I do want to say that as we're planning for the next year and how we do our forums, and love the idea of a sponsored forum from the Women's Health Commission. If there are any major events that focus on women's health that are in our community, we also are looking for those as possible opportunities to leverage a large convening, maybe to tack on a forum at something like that where folks are already coming together. And so we're open to hearing about that, especially if it's something that gives us some time to adequately plan and prepare. And then a last point on the podcast, I'd also love to invite our leadership team to join a podcast to talk about these changes to SNAP and Medicaid. I think forums are great opportunities for many people. That's how they learn, they come together, they network. A lot of times the narrative is much more personal. There is so much more that you can get out of a podcast. And I too would, commit to however we can pass that information on, whether it's at a large convening or a one-on-one conversation that's taped. Those are both wonderful strategies, and we're all in. Thank you.
Wonderful, thank you. And of course, we're looking forward to working with your department, and it's crucial now more than ever, I think. So I'm very excited about that. I do want to, not to
Can
put
I
it,
add
oh,
one thing,
please.
Madam Chair? And the podcast is, I mean, we were just fortunate to have that idea in our committee, but this is an opportunity for physical health to do it as well. I mean, this will just be our, okay.
Yeah,
That's
so,
why we say it's ours.
yeah, exactly,
Meaning
exactly.
the committee, but furthermore, it's Cuyahoga County.
Yes.
Way of getting information.
Exactly, and as you pointed out earlier, Councilwoman, the physical health and the mental health cannot be truly separated from a person. And so there might be even joint podcasts where we're talking about physical and how it affects the mental or vice versa. So looking forward to those opportunities. Not to put my colleague, Ms. Long, on the spot, but in the course of our conversation, our committee meeting, she really brought up the aspect of grief. And if you will, if you don't mind touching on that for the broader group, especially so timely today with the National Day of Remembrance, as we think about our victims in Cuyahoga County, just to bring this perspective.
Absolutely. I think one of the things we have to acknowledge when we look at everything happening in our community, both with respect to loss of life, loss of jobs, loss of things that we,
Cadence now.
yes, oh my gosh, right, and the
Healthcare.
profound impact that those losses have on us as a community. And so sometimes people may process those as grief, but sometimes they may not. And so part of doing some of this work, as we saw with Councilwoman Turner's event, it stirs stuff up in people. And so we don't want to have folks with no reprieve, no place to go to. So we have to really acknowledge what that looks like. And so really thinking about behavioral health and the totality, even when we talk about domestic violence, infant loss, those things have a profound impact on people. But sometimes we are just so focused on making it to the next day. We are living day by day, so we don't have the opportunity to think about how grief is really impacting our life, and then how that grief really trickles into so much of what violence we see, crime that we may see as well. So I think it's really important to always be uplifting grief and thinking about how losses impact our behavioral health, and not just thinking about losses as a death, but really, what did losing my health benefits cost me? Like, how did that have a profound impact on me not being able to do X, Y, Z? What did losing my food benefits cost me and my family? What decisions did I have to make and think about that really stretched me beyond my capacity? And I think that we have so much opportunity here as a county, and it doesn't matter people's socioeconomic status. People's mental and behavioral health is very stretched right now. We turn on the TV, we see one thing, and it really has a profound impact. So it doesn't matter whether, you know, we are the janitor, whether we're the teacher, whether we're the doctor, whether we're the CEO. Like, we all have things that are impacting our mental health, and we need to be thinking about that as a totality, because we are, as Heather said, we're here for the community of Cuyahoga County. And so that is incredibly diverse. So thank you for uplifting that point, Councilwoman.
Thank you so much. So this has once again been a rich discussion. It's always great to get together with this committee, this commission, and just to learn and educate and hear from the commission. I'm hearing consensus around the table to go forward with the three areas that Councilwoman Conwell highlighted for us, and hearing a lot of excitement and energy around that. So I appreciate that. Any additional comments or questions regarding mental health?
I just was gonna ask a question in regards to, since we have the two committees, how are we gonna schedule or plan these events so we can have a calendar, so we can all try to participate as much as we can to each event?
So after Commission Member Emily Campbell will be walking through the door literally in 1 minute, and she'll give the report for physical health. There's quite a bit of synergy between the both committees, which in totality is all of us. I think with Ms. Laurel Demansky Diaz and Audrey, as point people with me on the team. I'm dual service here. We'll come up with a way to stagger how we roll out these projects, because we don't want to inundate one month but then have nothing for the others. And then we will flow that through Madam Chair to share with all of you.
Are we on the, do we have a part on the, I'm sure we should, Cuyahoga County website? Is there a Women's Health Commission, and maybe we can put our calendar?
Yes,
of
there is
event.
a Women's Health Commission page. It's specifically related to boards and commissions, but I see no reason why we can't include a calendar and some updates about our events. But I will be happy to discuss how we go about that with our IT department and communications as well.
Wonderful, thank you. As we talk about the coordination of these calendars is always key, so I appreciate Councilwoman bringing that to the forefront. So it's excited to move forward. The obviously domestic violence will be one of our key points. We also talked about developing a podcast. And then, of course, the event motto that Councilwoman Turner had previously presented to us. As as committee member, commission member, excuse me, Campbell has now come in. I think we're ready to move to the physical health committee, and excited to learn about that committee meeting. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. Good morning, everybody, and appreciate the opportunity to roll in and just hit the ground running here at this meeting this morning. Busy day, busy morning. Pleased to provide a report about the Physical Health Committee, and one of the things that you will notice right away is a change in the name to the committee. We, as a committee, discussed shortening the name from Physical and Reproductive Health, recognizing that reproductive health is encompassed within physical health, and that this gives us an opportunity in the future, as things continue to evolve, to think a little bit more expansively about what health might mean. But in the short term, recognizing that there is something special and particular in women's health, and that has to do with our reproductive health. So maintaining that focus in the near term. The committee discussed really short, medium, and long-term strategies and activities. In the short term, we have an opportunity coming up just next month. It is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and the county has expressed interest in having a community-wide Wear Pink Day to recognize Breast Cancer Awareness Month. I'm going to look at Sabrina. Do we have a date? Yeah.
October 8th.
October 8th is the day, so county staff will be encouraged to wear pink on that day. Chair, you are already there this morning, ready to go. And encourage Women's Health Commission members, and please your networks, friends, and colleagues to wear pink to recognize the importance of breast cancer awareness, the survivors and those that we've lost due to this very treatable, almost curable disease if we catch it early. So that's the short term. In the medium term, we would like to build off of the presentation that we heard at our last commission meeting about period poverty from the excellent Cleveland Foundation fellow who presented that information. And so recommend that the Women's Health Commission activate and sponsor and put into practice a period supplies drive before the end of the year to gather community-wide period supplies, distribute those. We had a robust conversation about opportunities and good places to think about. And our conversation turned to young women, and especially women in middle school that are learning to navigate the change in their bodies and learning to navigate, having their period. And so in addition to period supply drive itself and having those items on hand and available throughout our community, we also discussed reaching out to school districts and middle schools to ensure and suggest that policies about bathroom use are period friendly. We know that many schools are trying to balance safety with some of these other challenges, but that there are some simple changes to make it a little bit easier, frankly, and to support young women in this part of their journey. We also talked about collaborating with the school-based health clinics and the mobile clinics to ensure that all of those clinics have period supplies on hand, and to let young women in schools know that that's a place they can go if they need help. So a lot of energy and excitement and things that take our energy, but not necessarily our dollars, that could have a real impact, especially on young women in the community. Because we emphasized that physical health and reproductive health and health of women needs to be across the lifespan. And so that is our medium-term strategy, again, before the end of the year, to be working on some of those strategies. And then longer-term, looking into the next year with the events that I believe have already been discussed that Councilwoman Turner brought together, highlighting those issues that women may struggle with in our community in silence or feel alone and lonely, but they're much more prevalent than we can imagine. So there will be a lot more work to do in the longer-term strategy to make those events happen, and I appreciate the support of the full commission as well as Cuyahoga County staff that will be instrumental in helping us execute those events and have them be successful. And I'd welcome my colleagues on the Physical Health Committee if they have anything else to add. Thanks.
Thank you.
Can I just make an observation recommendation? I had the opportunity to work with Katora last year. I agree. I'm so pleased to hear her advocacies has legs and is continuing forward. Just a realization that as many of us are part of organizations that are generous and have health savings accounts and have health account opportunities, at the end of the year, many of those accounts have to be exhausted. And I know our account enabled us to buy period products. I have women in my household, and that was something we were able to stock up on. But for many people, I think they allow funds to just go away. You can only buy so many Band-Aids and vitamins and other things that maybe you want to stock up on. But I want to encourage maybe that we, as we look at doing the second annual drive, that we maybe coincide that with the close of HSAs and just let people know you can spend out your accounts, you can collect products, and we will take them and distribute them to the community. Just a thought.
That's fantastic. I will be one of those people, I think, trying to spend money on something. So I really appreciate that suggestion, and maybe something that we could even promote at our local workplaces, et cetera, instead of letting those dollars. And I, coming from a benefit background, in my employment opportunities, the dollars go back. And so, they come out of your paycheck and they go back to the who holds the policy. And so we would rather see those dollars going to our community. And so that's a fantastic idea. Thank you.
Hi, I just wanted to make a comment about the young women in our community. As I coined myself the mommy auntie of two young teenage girls. I had the opportunity to take my niece to her first women's health visit recently, and I was kind of surprised and also a little taken back that I did not prepare her as much as I should have for that visit, but also very impressed. It was at Neighborhood Family Practice. I took her to see one of our midwives, or the midwives that, I said our, but our community midwives, right? But the way that the midwife approached the education and, had diagrams and just really walked through it in a way that me as just a woman, wouldn't have, I was really impressed. And I wonder if we can, as part of, the period poverty promotion and offering the products, that we really put out kind of an education, find some accessible educational pieces, whether it's like people on Instagram that the girls might follow, or that we might have websites that we connect to our, to our website. But just to Melanie or Dr. Golomboski's earlier point, presenting the accurate information and helpful information in a way that that young women can understand, I think would be really helpful.
As another comment, I would like to suggest, as it relates to the podcast, how to meeting the young people where they are with that issue. I would say maybe having a young person on the podcast, kind of discussing those, because their peers would listen to them more so they would listen to us. So, thank you.
On kind of around LaShawn's point, I was thinking, and I just recently saw, and I haven't watched the movie, so I don't know if it's appropriate, but Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret. So there's a movie out. I know it was a pivotal book in my time that I read, even though I'm still 21. So maybe the Physical Health Committee could look at that, and that would be something to engage young women, maybe show the movie. And so just a suggestion. I haven't watched the movie. I'm going to. I know it's a kid movie, but I'm going to.
As a mom of an 11-year-old, I have watched the
You
movie,
watched it?
and I think it was a good dialogue starter for us. I would love to see a panel of our young people, share the movie. I'm sure we could get space at a local library in our community, or something to that effect. Have a movie screening. Maybe we can have some popcorn. They love food. I definitely had popcorn that night with my daughter, and then it led to good dialogue. And so this is all about meeting, our populations where they're at, and whoever said that the kids don't think we're as cool as we think we are. Very, very true statement.
This is also an area where I think Tora, the Cleveland Foundation Fellow who's really been leading the charge, can help us be a connector. Because, I haven't seen her interact with young people, but just hearing how she shared about the information with us at the commission, I could hear behind that an ability to explain things in a way that, is approachable.
I think that's a great point. I did actually have an opportunity to watch Keturah. She's moved on to a place for me, which is serving young people who are aging out of the system. And so I think she could probably help us with identifying young people that can come forward, that have been prepared and are trained to be advocates. Another population that I actually recall that she was focused on is newcomers. And I think it's another group that we should probably put on our long-term agendas, folks that are in this country and are probably thinking about the culture, but also the legal system and their own health, making difficult decisions for themselves and their children. I think that is also, a potential topic for us to maybe take on next year or in the coming years.
Listening to all of the great dialogue, it's going to be so important that I know as Audrey, Laurel, and I discuss the next committee meetings, that all of you make sure you're plugged in latter part of October or beginning of November to be able to flesh some of this out. There's a lot of great ideas, but I think it's going to be very important that we staircase it. We have some immediate. We want to have a drive before the end of the year. We're going into October. Bringing Keturah in for our next meeting is in December. We are probably going to have to bring her in for the committee meeting, or at least talk to her before then if we're trying to execute a drive before the end of the year. That's our first priority. And then, again, with coordinating with our new administrator of the Office of Violence Prevention. That's happening latter part of October. So we're already at October, committee meetings, possibly November, and then a drive. So just managing our expectation so we're delivering amazing work in the community.
And reading between the lines, something that you did not say, but I'll say it, is recognizing the time constraints, and so not overcomplicating and being realistic.
Mm-hmm.
And we can save any good ideas that we have that we're not able to execute in this short period of time for future. This is the beginning of a journey together as the
Yes.
Women's Health Commission.
But with anything, and I would be remiss if I didn't say, which I should have said at the top of the meeting, County Executive Ronayne was very sad he couldn't be here today. He's very, very committed, very much committed to this commission. We did update him as a group as to what our, because I had the pleasure of sitting in both committees, kind of gave him a sneak peek. He's super excited that we have so many things we're going to execute by end of year in conjunction with our county council women, and looking forward to all of those milestones we're going to hit by the end of the year, and definitely looking forward to the public. He's very, he likes to be out in the public and talking to folks. So he's looking forward to what we have planned for 2026. So he sends you his regards. He thanks you very much for the time you've put into this, the time you will put into this, and just appreciates each of you individually and as a collective. So, thank you.
And I also want to let the commission members know that although you are on a committee, physical or mental, if your schedule and if you would like to attend the other meeting, please feel free to. You are not restricted. There's just so much good energy and so many good ideas. And I know that although we did select a particular committee, I know that it was very challenging for a lot of us to pick one or the other, and there's so many layers of overlap. So you are always welcome if you're able to pop in on the other committee and move that work along too.
Question, are we assuming that everything that was recommended, we're gonna flow with it, or will we vote on what it is that the commission would like to do?
We're not going to take formal votes at this time because the calendar, as we're talking about, is very fluid. I don't want to lock us in or commit us to anything as we're starting out. We're just trying to get general consensus, I think, moving forward. And I appreciate Ms. Campbell saying that what we can't do this year can, of course, always be reserved. Et cetera. And so just to make sure we can pivot and be a little bit more fluid in our work. And as you know, women's health is constantly evolving and changing daily. And so we might say we need to, shift gears this way because of some outside occurring factor, et cetera. So definitely doing the work, moving forward, but giving us some flexibility in that as well, I think.
I definitely do appreciate that answer because I want us to be very efficient and intentional in how we put it out and not rush to put it out just for putting out something, because we stated here today that October is Violence Awareness Month, Domestic Violence Awareness Month, as well as Cancer Awareness Month. And to keep in mind, November, December, the holidays is coming up, and so I appreciate you mentioning that if we're not able to get it done this year, we could definitely move forward in 2026 with getting whatever objectives we lay out done. Thank you.
Just wanted to also share that the county here has lunch and learns. So maybe, for employees, and they're frequented by employees during lunch. So as we're thinking on both committees, you could also think of something for the lunch and learn time that they allocate. And I think they have a schedule for that. And I don't know, Sabrina could connect you with whoever runs the lunch and learn now. And then my other point, this is great information that we hear from physical, the physical committee, and as well as they're hearing from the mental health committee. And they brought up a good point. We also could celebrate mental health. I think that color is silver, isn't it, Heather? For mental health, is it silver? Okay, I want to say silver because I came to something at Murders Taylor, and so just it's good to share and create so we can have two dress down. Employees love dress down day.
One last comment about the calendar. Thinking about December, a huge drive for us are toys for our DCFS children. And as I'm thinking about what in relation to other things happening in the community and happening here, Thanksgiving is a large holiday. So maybe we, after talking to Katura, maybe we try to focus our drive somewhere around November. But we'll see with her being thankful, and grateful. Might be a nice way to dovetail around the period poverty and the educational component. And we'll make sure, and I know David will from overseeing the Health and Human Services, we have a lot of giving employees here. When we had to do a drive on some things before our first director of housing and community development, Sarah Parks Jackson, we had a drive, and it was a very short window, and so many of our employees are so generous. So I think this might be something to even educate our own employees about period poverty. So I'm really excited about that. Possibly, maybe we can schedule that for November since we have the two things in October.
My organization, the Center for Community Solutions, has our annual event shortly before Thanksgiving, and we'll have part of the drive be part of our event. Simple. Sign us up.
And I think this is an area of opportunity that we can, with our employers, talk to the people we need to talk to and see if that's possible. Also, I think other community organizations, other employers might want to tag on. This is, and just by, we always do, which is so important, the food drives, et cetera. Just by saying that we need period supplies is going to click in people's head and be an area of education immediately. And so, I think this is going to be very exciting. Thank you so much. Other comments? Oh,
I wanted to follow back up with Councilwoman Conwell. She had asked what was the color for mental health. That color is green, thanks to my colleague LaShawn, who looked it up.
We won't say pink and green. Some people might go crazy if you know what I'm referring to. So, other questions, comments about just the fantastic report out from physical health. So much excitement and energy in the room, and I think we're all very excited to move forward. Excellent. A lot of work to be done, but we know this group around the table is a group of worker bees, and so it's exciting to be at the table and do this work with you. Thank you all for the discussion. We're looking forward to future developments from both the Physical Health and Mental Health Committee. I'm going to turn the floor back over to our colleague, Emily Campbell, to provide us with a brief legislative and policy update. Thank you.
Thank you, will do. And before I start in this, just one note that although I was the person doing the presentation, all these ideas are not mine and mine alone. It was a wonderful, great energetic discussion, and as you saw from what it generated here, and thank you to the others on the committee for all of their great thoughts in that. Okay, shifting to legislative and policy update. Refreshing my memory from the notes from the last meeting, the minutes from the last meeting of what we had discussed. If you'll recall, the last time we were together, the state operating budget had not yet been adopted, and what became known as the One Big Beautiful Bill was still winding its way through Congress. Those were both completed and enacted right around the July 4th holiday. The State of Ohio operating budget governs the spending and a lot of the policy on that for the state for the next 2 years. The Big Beautiful Bill, H.R. 1, is the budget reconciliation bill in Congress. Congress this fall is working on a series of appropriations bills to actually appropriate the money. And so although that was an important policy moment, there's still a lot more work to be done. What I can tell you about what's happening in Congress now is that the U.S. Senate has already begun work on their appropriations bills. They've already passed many of the bills that deal with health and well-being and community services, the Health, Education, and Labor Bill, Ways and Means, and some of the other things that deal with Medicaid, and that if if the versions in the Senate, that the Senate has passed, become the final legislation, we at the Center for Community Solutions will be happy with where we have ended up. That the US Senate is opting to keep spending levels for many, many programs that benefit our community members at about the same levels that they have been. We do not expect that that will stay in the final legislation as these deliberations move on to the US House of Representatives. So we will continue to keep you up to date about what is happening there. We have some kind of good news, bad news situations with a number of the other updates. At our last meeting, we had talked about the trigger language that had been proposed in the state budget, where if the federal match for the Medicaid expansion population, the federal share drops in any way, even by 1 penny below 90%, that Medicaid expansion shall be discontinued in Ohio. That language was part of the final bill. It is now in statute here in Ohio. Good news, nothing in the federal legislation that has been enacted so far triggers that. And so for now, a Medicaid expansion continues in Ohio. Another thing that we had talked about was the continuous eligibility for kids up through their 4th birthday. I'm going to take you on a journey. Ohio was submitting a waiver to allow children between birth and their 4th birthday to remain on Medicaid without checking, without redeterminations. Very important in those early formative years, especially with all of the preventative health that happens in those first years of life and the challenges and disruptions that come from being a parent of a very young child. One less thing to worry about. The state legislature removed that in the state budget, it prohibited Ohio from doing that. The governor, line item, vetoed it, so we're back on. But just a week or so after the veto happened, the federal Centers for Medicaid and Medicare Services announced that they would not be approving any waivers for continuous eligibility for any state or any population. And so, unfortunately, it is highly unlikely that Ohio will be able to implement continuous eligibility for young children during, this particular CMS administration. But it's there, and so in the future could reignite some of those conversations. The other large thing that our community is talking about, thinking about, and collaborating around is about work requirements that were introduced in the federal legislation for Medicaid. For the first time, Medicaid will have work requirements, and also expanding the work requirement or reducing the exemption, so basically expanding work requirements for people who are receiving SNAP. The SNAP work requirement changes were effective as of the date of enactment, which was in July. We are still waiting, I think, right? We're still waiting? Check in every day? Okay. Every day we are waiting for those regulations to be set forth by the federal government, then through the state and into the county, and the county will need to implement those. But when they come, it is going to happen very quickly. Thinking about Medicaid, there are about 100,000 people in Cuyahoga County who receive health coverage through the Medicaid expansion. Those people will be subject to work requirements for the first time no later than January 1st, 2027, or December 31st, 2026. So we have a little over a year, hopefully, unless they're enacted early, before work requirements for the Medicaid expansion population go into effect. As a reminder, this is parents in our community between 90 and 138% of the federal poverty level, and what is known as able-bodied adults without dependents, or the ABOD population. One of the changes in the federal legislation is that children who are 14 and over are no longer considered dependents for the purposes of the exemption. Yeah, I'm seeing your faces. Yes. So teenagers, gotta work. You gotta work if you're a parent of a teenager. So that is a change. The other change in the exemptions for work requirements are that the age has expanded. It was previously age 18 to 55. Now it's age 18 to 64. So we are adding work requirements for people ages 55 to 64 based on estimates from Cuyahoga Job and Family Services. That is the largest group of people in the SNAP program that will be newly work required. And we all know that there are substantial challenges for people who are later in their careers if they are not engaged in the workforce at this time. But what I will say is that many, many people who are being helped by these programs are already working. And by estimates from the state of Ohio, about 70% of the Medicaid expansion population statewide will either qualify for exemption or are working enough to meet that work requirement. The other 30%, may have barriers to employment and other challenges. So still large numbers. And if you think about Cuyahoga County alone, we're still talking about 30,000 people that will need to engage in work activities they aren't already engaged in, or show that they are participating in education or in volunteer activities. This has ignited quite a bit of partnership and collaboration within our community in ways to think and be innovative to try and help those who qualify for these programs maintain their eligibility. And so I'm happy to report that through a broad partnership between Cuyahoga County, Legal Aid of Greater Cleveland, the Greater Cleveland Food Bank Center for Community Solutions, and then the list goes on and on and on. There is a large initiative around communication to help people within our community understand what this may mean for them and help figure out how to reduce the friction in people being able to report on their work activities, because we recognize that many people in our community will already be doing activities or are interested in doing activities. And so thinking creatively, and a lot of energy and feeling that this is something that is happening to our community, and we have the ability to be able to respond to ensure that people within our community maintain this very important health coverage, even despite of some of these challenges. So there's a lot of paperwork to be done within Cuyahoga County to make sure that the county is in compliance, but an enormous amount of energy around help to ensure that we can all be a part of helping ensure that people maintain their health coverage. Health systems are talking about it. I'm in a lot of meetings, and it's very forward-looking and positive that we can do this together. One quick example is collaborating to ensure that whatever documentation needs to happen for people who are volunteering is done in a way that is acceptable for those systems to report. And the food bank and others will be working on forms to make it easy for people if they volunteer. Like, if you've donated to Goodwill or Salvation Army, they hand you the form right away you can fill out. Something as simple as that can make a huge difference in helping people to meet their work requirements and also help the need for volunteers within our community in some of these services. So again, it is very challenging, and I don't want to understate the challenge that this means. And we do expect that we will see people lose their health insurance coverage because of this. But in a moment when we get a lot of policy bad news, seeing our community come together in new ways in partnership has been gratifying and is a glimmer of hope that I take with it. The other thing that I will say is that a report came out from Georgetown University recently that showed that Ohio, among several other states, had a statistically significant increase in the share of children who are uninsured in our state between 2022 and 2024. So some of our indicators are already heading in a challenging direction before federal policy decisions are making it even more difficult for people to maintain their health coverage. So much more we could talk about, but that follows up on some of the things that we had reported on previously. And as we go forward, I think these kind of updates will be part of our regular agenda. And please, I would welcome commission members and others if there are things that you'd like to share with the group or would like me to share with the group, I'm happy to do that. Thanks.
Emily, can you just speak to who is exempt from work requirements?
Yes, thank you for that question. So the exemptions from work requirements are people who are caregivers of a child up to age 14 or a person with disabilities, people who are under the age of 18 and over the age of 65, under the new guidelines. Thank you.
Can I add one point on that as well? It is unfortunate that we also have to report that existing exemptions were retracted. Until this law passed, homeless individuals were exempted from work activities, as were youth that aged out of the foster care system, as well as certain veterans. Those have all been retracted. The youth and the veterans are a smaller population in the hundreds in total, but the homeless population is over 1,500. So they too will now have to do work activities or risk losing their SNAP or Medicaid.
But are mental health and substance use disordered, those folks that are engaged in treatment are considered part of the disabled population, or how does
That's
that?
an additional exemption, and we're waiting for the regulations to see what that really means. And there is an advocacy angle to all of this to encourage those writing the regulations to make the exemptions as broad as possible and as easy to prove as possible. So we don't know what treatment can mean many different things, as you all know, and we're waiting to hear what that may be. And one thing I neglected to mention is that in addition to all of these changes, eligibility for SNAP and Medicaid is being rescinded for groups of newcomers, legally present immigrants who do not have legal permanent resident status for at least 5 years, so green card holders. So many refugees in our community who are here in this country legally no longer will have access to Medicaid and SNAP.
Just on that point, Emily, and thank you. Apologies, Chair, I was at the Mayors and Managers meeting, but as is Kim Thomas, by the way, so Mayor Thomas. Two questions. One, relative to the rules, either to you or David or Kevin, who's not here, do we know which comes first, SNAP or Medicaid rules? Do you have a sense which is coming first?
SNAP will come first.
Okay.
SNAP will come first, and it is right now.
Okay. Then relative to our immigrant population, I presume that the exemptions that apply to non-immigrants do not apply to immigrants. So if you're in any of those categories, you're still not eligible.
That is correct. Citizenship
okay.
status
Wow.
first.
That's heavy hitting. Thank you.
And one key point to make is that these changes are coming. They are not here yet. So people in our community as of today, still, it's let's think back to June, still the same as June. But they are coming, and our community is preparing, as is Cuyahoga County.
And Emily, I was going to say thank you for that note, and I think it is important for us to be preparing. So I've been on a lot of these optimization calls, looking at how we are able to try to get ahead as much as possible. And so much is uncertain, but we know what we know, and how do we ensure that our community is well? I think that we should all be keeping our ears to the ground, understanding how this is going to have a profound impact on our region. Our families were already stretched, and so we have to imagine that this is going to have just a heavy impact. When we look at all the nonprofits trying to do work, the hospitals trying to serve patients and not have to close locations and things such as that, how do we band together? And I think collaboration is going to be more important than ever before because we shouldn't be duplicating services. We should be looking at efficiencies. Like, we should be looking at how do we really serve the people and serve them well. Every organization has faced some funding cut this year, and that's not going to slow down. And so how do we ensure that families are not left by the wayside? There are not people who are slipping through the cracks. I am on these calls, tuned in, because even we as a small organization want to know how do we help our clients. I think everyone is having those same conversations. How do we even articulate this to individuals so that they may not even be aware this is happening. How do we get that message across them? And I think this collaborative approach is going to be something that is so important to ensuring that as many folks as possible are able to keep their insurance and keep their food benefits. So I'm very appreciative. I've seen a lot of you guys on the same calls that I've been on. Every organization's represented, having someone there from hospitals to FQHCs to organizations that serve clients to the food bank to policy with the Center for Community Solutions. I think, again, so much of what we do down at the State House is going to be important. Those advocacy days, those legislative briefings are going to be so critically important to help stress the needs of Cuyahoga County.
And Chair, just to pile on that great point, a few things. One, I think it's the county's intent, and I'll be working with you as well, Councilwoman Conwell and Council President Miller, to put together at least a advocacy advisory group on both fronts, SNAP and Medicaid. I use advocacy/advisory, but my intuition is that this is a group. Let's just use SNAP as a example. If we get grocery store owners and managers together with food bank, together with county, together with those in the community as intermediaries, nonprofits, if we work together to create an information loop for, say, the most draconian situation where an individual's in the grocery store line and their EBT card is just, no longer useful because the rules have changed. That's a terrible situation, obviously, for that citizen and for the clerk that's standing in front of them. And my intuition is there needs to be a pretty rapid communication loop that we need to put together to let people know where to go, right? I mean, somebody that's been using EBT may not know the food bank exists. And for the food bank, how much more burden can they take, right? So I think my thought is that those two initiatives have to move quickly. On the Medicaid front, I think it's the FQHCs, it's our hospitals, it's anybody who can help advise on where persons can go. So that's one point I wanted to make. The other is I think they're not here, but I think United Way's 211 system is something we need to really get amped up again so people know that call line helps. And then third, I would say the advent of the Human Services Chamber is really, I think, one of the great things that's happened in this town recently, and using the brain trust of the Human Services Chamber, all the members that are part of that will be helpful. Finally, make a plea out into the public. We could use the help of the business chamber because as persons face work requirements, we need employers who may not know that there's the opportunity to receive new workers, and the workers may not know about them. So we need intermediaries in the business front that help us. And I'd specifically call out on the GCP for that help.
Yeah, I'd like to just make a couple points. First, I just want to acknowledge on Monday, County Executive Chris Ronayne convened our local delegation, and the first item on his list was these changes. This is top of our list. It's the first thing we led with. It's the majority of our time, and it was Chris talking to legislators to say, as a community, what's this going to be? And that's the leadership that I think we need, and that's the partnership that I think we need. I also want to take a minute and I have to recognize we're all watching the timeline, as Emily looked to me and said, have we heard? So the current projection that we're hearing is for SNAP, it could be November 1. This is not executive order land. These are not legally questionable positions. This is the law of America. This is a fully vetted, fully executed law that was signed on July 4th of this year. And so there is no theory here. I want to point out two things that happened over the past couple years, decades. When welfare reform happened, there were 25,000 county residents on SNAP. In terms of cash assistance, there's less than 1,000 now. That's the model here. 25,000 people went from receiving cash assistance to less than 1,000 right now. Now, other people get cash when they have a grandchild or a niece and nephew living with them, but for families that actually get a cash check, it's less than 1,000. That's the model. They applied work requirements, they required administrative burdens, and they went from 25,000 to less than 1,000. When they did implement that program, there were literally tens of millions of dollars given to the counties to implement this. Tens of millions of dollars. When they implemented Affordable Care Act, the federal government spent hundreds of millions of dollars to help with navigators. These policies could cost us $7 million last year. We will pay. Cuyahoga County could be paying, or the state of Ohio could be paying to implement these policies next year. And if we don't do it right, it could cost the state hundreds of millions of dollars as they start to tie our participation in these programs to error rates. So I don't say this to scare the public. We're not fear-mongering. We're recognizing the law of the land has changed. And as a community, we will have to decide what we do together. And because I think we're up for it. And we are, I know Kevin Gowan is looking at dates in the next month to execute Chris's vision about bringing people together. And I will be reaching out to each of you to ask you if you want to join these meetings, because I think we're going to need all the community to come together. And I will also say this is a cycle, and we're going to make it through it together. But it is going to be a tough time that was going to rely on communication and partnerships. So thank you very much for those.
I wanted to add one thing regarding refugees and immigrants. So at our organization, there's 2 providers who are designated civil surgeons, which is a federal designation to complete medical examination to obtain citizenship. And so we've prioritized knowing or anticipating something was coming. All newly arrived Afghan refugees that we have seen come through our doors have paperwork submitted for citizenship. And so we continue to look for ways that we can expand that service out. There's very limited number of individuals who are designated this, and my understanding is they're no longer processing applications on the federal level to designate more individuals to do this work. So I did want to highlight that there is a process in our county. There is, I think, another civil surgeon in Summit County and then other surrounding counties, but it's a very limited resource, and we struggle to maintain access to it, and really have focused on refugees outside of other immigrants right now, just so we can really help to support that group and ensure that they do have access to Medicaid. And we're hoping that will still be the case, and there won't be like a date, like you must be here for 5 years. As long as you said, if they have that citizenship paper complete. So I think that's a good thing, or another little kind of shining light in this. But yeah, thank you.
That is a wonderful example of organization within our community thinking about the issue critically and identifying a way that is unique to you that contributes to the answer to some of this call to action. So thank you for highlighting that. And I was later than I anticipated because I got pulled by 211 staff begging to be included in this. So thank you, County Executive, for highlighting the deep interest in so many corners of our community to find a way for us to respond. And then the other thing, I'll make a personal note. I expect that I will be in line in the grocery store when I see something like the county executive described happen, and I'm ready to put my credit card down. And in that moment, do what I can as a neighbor to help a neighbor in a tough situation. So those kinds of responses are things that we also need to share with our community. The opportunity to help in those ways on an individual level. Thank you.
What are you saying, Emily? We need to clean up our credit card debt to do that?
That is a different commission.
But Emily, I think that, again, truly speaks to the human piece of this, the neighborly piece of this that is going to come into play. I mean, as many of us are employers and have staff that may have challenges as well, that may have family members who are going through these situations. So we can even start in our own houses by educating those that we work with. I love that lunch and learn idea with the county staff. I mean, that's such a unique opportunity to help get the word out because I can see it. Like, I can see it. I can see our clients calling us. I can see people in deep need because our households may not just be us. Like, sometimes we are in these extended families, and that's going to be something that when we're being thoughtful and having these conversations that we have to keep in the back of our mind. And that's when, again, going back to the top of the meeting, Emily, before you got here, we were talking about the behavioral health aspect. In that committee, the grief, the loss, the sadness that is going to arise. We can't know what it's going to be, but we can have solutions ready to go and ready to be supportive both through our agencies and just as individuals. So compassion, I think, kindness is going to be something that's really important in these next years to come.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Always very important to get the legislative update. And thank you for formally presenting, Ms. Campbell. And thank you, everyone, for bringing in a piece of your knowledge and what your organization is doing. Obviously, it's going to take a huge team effort to support the residents of Cuyahoga County. So I really appreciate all the comments. Just to recap, as we're getting to the end of the meeting, we will be looking at alternative dates to make sure to try to get Mayor Thomas and the county executive. There's a few conflicting dates with this meeting, and so more to come on that for our calendars commission. To recap, a great discussion today. We are able to proceed forward with virtual meetings when necessary. We'll especially see some committee work coming out of those virtual meetings. I'm excited to look at starting our focus with mental health on domestic violence, really excited about the podcast, and also, of course, implementing for both committees the event model put forth by Councilwoman Turner. Turning to the physical health committee, looking at October, something we can do out the gate for Breast Health Month and Breast Cancer Awareness Month. Wear Pink, which is very popular in our community. We've talked about lunch and learns, different things that can go forward for that. Honing really in on period poverty, and a special thanks to the Cleveland Fellow who came in to help educate us and our community about that. We're excited to continue that relationship with her, understanding that she's moved on to a different opportunity, but this is a passion for her as well. So looking at drives, looking at education, also being mindful of our calendars, knowing that we can also have ideas and schedule them later, move them to the following year. Last, really getting a positive, well, I don't know about positive, but getting an update on some legislative changes. What was positive, why I say positive, was seeing the community come together in dialogue already to meet the needs of our residents, and also that continuing dialogue and how that we can move forward and assist our residents best as possible. That, I think, is something really positive and really at the heart of what we do in Cuyahoga County. So I'm appreciative for that. With that said, and looking at the clock, we are going to move forward and conclude the meeting here. Thank you, everyone, for sharing your time with us today. The next meeting is scheduled for December 4th at 3 p.m. We will be looking at the calendar just to make sure it doesn't conflict with the mayor's meeting. I'm not sure if I'm saying that meeting quite right. But so please hold for December 4th at 3 p.m. But we might be getting back to you if we might need to make some adjustments at that time. Pay attention because it is an afternoon meeting and we generally meet in the morning. We've had a lot of exciting initiatives coming up, and I'm excited to see the positive impact these will have for our women, girls, individuals identifying as women in Cuyahoga County. May I please have a motion to adjourn the meeting? We have a motion and we have a second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Let the record show the motion passed, and the meeting is now adjourned at 10:23 a.m. Thank you very much.
If I could,
Oh, I'm so sorry.
No, I wanted to do this after the meeting. Maisha Watkins stopped down. She was out. She's going into another meeting, but she was going to come back with more ribbons. So I'd give my ribbon up if anybody is going to an event and wants to have one of the ribbons for the National Day of Remembrance for Homicide Victims. I know Chris has got one. I don't know if you're going upstairs and you've got time to stop in and get a replacement. I'll give mine up, and we can get more if anybody else needs one.
I hate to do this after the meeting, but just for the body of us, at 1:28 today, if it wasn't said, was it already said? We're going to host a moment of silence at the county for the 128 persons who've lost their life to homicide, and their families and their survivors. So that'll be at 1:28 today. If you're thinking of it at 1:28, just think about a moment of silence. The other thing I just wanted to offer is, I will give this to whomever, and if you'd like to wear it, we can get more. If it wasn't already said, in Councilwoman Conwell's district, a really wonderful thing happened a week or two ago, and that was the ribbon cutting for the Hitchcock Center for Women's Shelter for persons going through recovery and the journey. But what's so neat about this facility is that the kids, if mom's there with a kid, the kid can live with mom at the facility on Ansel. So it's all the kind of complicated news and cloudy news need to celebrate the high points of things that happen, and that was really a wonderful opening at the Hitchcock Center for women that are on their journey of recovery. So, thank you.